Good evening, sir.
Oh, hello there, sir. Welcome to another episode of your own podcast that you do with me. Uh,
Glad to be
uh,
here. Oh, I gotta open
for
that up.
anyone who's gonna be watching, oh yes, water. I need to hydrate. I'm parched. Okay.
Oh, that looks like a fancy water bottle.
hmm Brought to you by UWGB.
Oh, no. I see. You're getting your little advertising in there.
I gotta rep the school, even if it's not like an Ivy League school or anything. It's still
Uh,
home. So, uh,
but
watch.
yeah.
It's like, yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just kind of diving into what we're talking about today. So we're gonna dive into like aliens and extraterrestrial. This is kind of a side piece from the
We're gonna be talking
like
about aliens and
ghosts.
not the illegal kind.
Yeah.
Wait, are aliens illegal still though? Like, if you come to Earth, can they like deport you back to space? How would that work?
Maybe
Like, would they
that's why
just have to
space.
like
Maybe that's why they created Space Force.
exactly? They're just like border patrol. We're gonna have to put, when maybe like 100 years down the road, when Trump's like next descendant becomes the world leader, he's gonna build a wall around the world, and it's just gonna be we're gonna build a wall, and it's gonna be huge. We're gonna keep the aliens out. I don't know. That sounds more like Kennedy, but whatever.
Yeah, I
But
was just gonna say you sound like JFK there for a second.
I was gonna say that's more Kennedy, but you know what? They're gonna actually just clone JFK, and he's gonna be a descendant of Trump. So it's just gonna be a weird conflict of interest.
Uh,
I did not have relations with that alien. Report it.
oh fuck.
Oh, no, not getting into the actual topic
Yeah.
before we just go off on
So
some stupid shit.
yeah, so we like a couple of weeks ago we talked about like ghosts and paranormal. So this is kind of a side avenue off of this. They're kind of in the same general umbrella, but um, aliens kind of deserve their own episode and kind of talking point. So I mean, just to kind of start things off, I know, or kind of just obviously knowing you for many years, um, I know your stance on it. That you kind of, we're both kind of in the same realm of we both think that there's more than us out there. I guess what is kind of your, I guess, more in depth stance of like, yes, I
So,
believe, no, I don't believe. Obviously, we have that established, but like
and this is
beyond that,
I'm just trying to look up the foundation real quick. Beyond the Stars Foundation, I believe is what it's called. Um,
oh,
shit.
with Tom
Yeah,
DeLonge.
Tom DeLonge. And after watching it, we're talking about a podcast within a podcast. Ooh,
Fourth
cue
wall
the
break
X
within a
Files
fourth
music.
wall break.
Right? Joe Rogan just pops out of nowhere and punches me in the face. Oh, sorry. 1 second. I gotta take this phone call real quick. Hey mom, I'm in the middle of doing my podcast. Can I call you back? Record. Okay. So where I kind of stand when it comes to aliens, it's kind of shifted throughout the years. For one, obviously, when I was first growing up, I was like, obviously, aliens to me I didn't think aliens are like the big black-eyed, fucking weird little gray-looking creatures that run around and like to probe your asshole. Like I never really like thought of aliens like that trying to like, you know what I mean? Like no finger in the booty hole. Like I never thought about that kind of concept of alien. For me, aliens are kind of like maybe even just a the smallest microbe, the smallest like bacteria or whatever it is, something that's life outside of the planet is alien life at that point. You can technically bring back things like from space that could impact and alter the earth itself that are alien in nature. And there's things like that. There's like particles and stuff like that that come from meteors and shit. There's so much to expand in onto that part of things. But ultimately, I actually have a few interesting theories that I've kind of like thought about. Uh, One is that like aliens are, or some form of alien could actually just be another alternate sort of Earth where they could be very similar to us. Actually, they could be very similar creatures because if this is the form we took with the expansion of our intelligence, and if they have a similar atmosphere, wouldn't it only make sense for their bodies to be almost similar to ours to some extent? But if there's life on a planet where, say, because it has to deter, it's all determined by the planet, its layout, and the genetic factor of everything. Like, not like we are a very distinctive, interesting species, honestly, because like so far we're the only thing that we know of outside of like there was Neanderthals and those died out, and it's like one thought I entertained was like, oh, what if there was like just a more advanced level of humanity, and like what if that's what we thought aliens were, and what if that's just something that disappeared, and so we had that idea of what aliens were. But going into like the Tom DeLonge stuff, and I recommend anyone to watch his videos. You can either think it's completely fake and horseshit, or like completely be a true believer. But either way, it's still entertaining to watch. And the thing that gives it a little bit merit to me is like the foundation that he has started has a lot of high-ranking officials and like NASA scientists and stuff like that that are involved in it. And the recent leak of a video from the Navy, and let me clarify on this. So they leaked a video of a UFO, and everyone's like, a UFO? It's like an unidentified flying object. That is all that stands for. But they had a video of one that they could not identify, and the fact that his foundation was linked to that video getting released is just kind of interesting to me. And then I've been seeing a lot of like memes and stuff. I don't know what this is about. Maybe I'll have to do some research on it. Some monolith that like shifted locations. I don't even know what that was about. That could be fake, but it's just something someone made a sidebar comment to me. So if anyone knows about that, feel free to comment on it. I'll probably be doing some research on it.
Are you
But
talking about what that thing that was found in New Mexico or whatever, like a couple
yeah, like
months
the
back?
obelisk.
Yeah, yeah. I always wonder about that too because it's just like it was like found by accident, like some hikers, but then all of a sudden it was gone. But then like some college not too far from there was like, oh, that was a part of this group that they were doing like a science project or like an art project or something, and it was like still there. But then all of a sudden, like as quickly as it hit news and like people knew about it, it was gone. Like it was taken
Yeah.
away. So it's like cool if it's your science project, it's your art project, leave it there. Like keep doing what you're doing. It was almost as if like that was a cover up, and the second that people found out it was there, it's like, oh, we got to move it. But
Well, exactly. And then you got to think about like, so I believe a lot of our conceptual understanding of aliens is brought because of mass hysteria and tabloids and stuff like that. And like honestly, just because it became this entertaining concept, especially the whole Roswell concept, the whole stories about Area 51, stuff like that. And it's like we all like to believe that there's some kind of underlying shadow thing going on within our government, and that there's secrets being kept from us. And I do believe there are secrets about space that are kept from us. I don't think they're as extreme as we believe they are to be, and or it could be so extreme, but like we've talked about before in our podcast, I understand where the government comes from, because it's like it'd be so overwhelming for people that we would just outright deny it, or it could cause some people to just be like, holy shit, like life is meaningless or something along those lines. You know what I mean? Like it's like, wow, my life is nothing compared to whatever that is. And this is another thing about it too, is that when I think about the concept or the idea of aliens, that why would you not believe that there could be more life in this ever expanding universe when we are still finding life every single day on our planet that we didn't know how to define or understand? There's new things being discovered every day as the caliber of the discoveries kind of minimalized a little bit, but the fact is we're still even trying to understand what dinosaurs looked like. You know what I
mm-hmm.
mean? Like we don't even fully understand what dinosaurs truly look like. How can we even dismiss the idea that there's life outside of us?
Yeah.
That's just narcissistic at
What?
that point. No, this is the only planet that could have life. Sure it
Yeah.
is. Like
One thing that always cracks me up with dinosaurs is how they find like a fucking like bone from like a leg of a dinosaur, and they're like, oh, this is what the full dinosaur looked like, and that's what it sounded like. It's like, how the fuck do
yeah,
you know
right.
that? Like,
Right? It's
like even
well,
watching like movies like Jurassic Park, it's like that when you think of like a T Rex, you think of like Stegosaurus or a fucking Dilophosaurus or Velociraptor, and it's just like they all have their own different noises, and it's like it's all very Hollywood because that's they made that up on their own. You know what I mean? They
oh
didn't
yeah,
when they were making
exactly.
that movie. They didn't call up some scientists and be like, "Hey, what does a T Rex sound like?" They just made it themselves, and that's what us as kids and to adults and like anybody who's ever like watched those movies or seen any videos whatsoever on dinosaurs, that's just what's in our head. It's like, oh, that's what that dinosaur sounds like, but it's like you don't actually know that.
Well, yeah, and they literally sound effect artists literally just sit there and they for example, they use like garbage cans. They sit there and they just like do these loud guttural rolls into this trap, like garbage can, this aluminum garbage can, and it creates distinctive that sound, and it rings to your core. And when you're watching movies like that, you don't question it. You don't question what it sounds like. And this is the thing. So now we have this thing going around in society where it's like, oh, this is what an alien kind of should look like, blah blah blah. It's like, no, there's no way to truly define an alien. For all we know, we could just be such a small concept to an overarching thing around us, and that like we could be one of the least civilized planets out there, or we could be one of the most. And like alien life could literally just be fucking dumb. And we're always expecting like aliens to show up and be this super hyper advanced society. Maybe they're just in their infant stages. Maybe we are the most advanced. Maybe that's why it's like we crave that idea, because we want to believe there's other life. But maybe we are just that. We're the most advanced
Yeah.
at
And
this point. Or go ahead.
oh, and one thing I want to bring up, especially living or still being in the pandemic that we are with COVID, one conspiracy that, I mean, I have no information to back it up, but it's just something that I've seen and it's kind of made my gears turn. It's like, oh, I never thought about that. Is the conspiracy that these like bird flu, Ebola, coronavirus, like all these like mass level affecting like viruses and flus and stuff are alien. Like it's from these extraterrestrial beings visiting Earth. They're bringing bacteria and other viruses from other planets to ours that our bodies aren't like immune to, and that's how these like pandemics and stuff happen. It's an interesting theory, and it's obviously very controversial, and I don't have any reason to back
No,
it
yeah,
up,
there's no. It's
but it's
just
just
it's
an
an
idea.
interesting
It's an
talking point.
interesting
It's yeah.
thing to
It's like
think
it's
about.
not like you're saying you support it. It's just like an
Yeah.
interesting theory that you've heard about. And so, like for anyone who gets in the comment section, it's like, well, this is where bird flu's from, you idiot. And it's like, no, we're not saying it's not from that. We're just saying this is a theory that was mentioned that we've heard about. So
Hmm.
keep your comments to yourself, or tell us. I don't give a fuck.
And
I'll take it right
but
back.
one more thing I want to touch on, how it was something you had like briefly talked about right at the beginning, was like different theories and like around like where aliens come from and how they are, and kind of how you said any what you think of it as alien, you don't think of like this little green guys with big eyes and whatever. And that's kind of where when I was young, I kind of believed that, mostly from like movies and stuff. Like the movie fucking Signs. I don't know if you've ever seen that with Mel Gibson.
Yeah,
That movie like terrified the shit out of me, and I was just deathly afraid of aliens for probably a year or two from that movie. And I like
that's the one on the
literally,
farm, right?
yep. And I
Yeah,
literally remember sleeping at like the longest time. I literally sleep with my blanket over my head and like this much of a hole that I could like see and breathe out of, because for the longest time I always thought aliens were going to come get me. And then as I got older and educated myself on it more, I'm like, okay, alien, like you said, alien is just like, it could be bacterial, it could be anything,
yeah,
literally anything that's not from Earth that is here is alien. And
exactly.
one more thing I wanted to touch on, I'll kind of swing it back to you, is the idea that aliens are just advanced versions of us. So, like how you brought up earlier, how Neanderthals were a thing. Early humans were big, burly, thick, like just very live off the land and like environmental people. And as you can see, as years go on, our bodies are getting smaller and our heads are getting bigger, like an alien, like the
Yeah,
conspiracy
right.
of, yeah. So it's just like that's again another theory, another conspiracy is that aliens are just more. I wouldn't say
Advanced humans.
future, like I wouldn't say they're from the future, but it's just they're us, but just in very sped up. Like they're us
Yeah,
500, 1,000 years in the future, whatever that might be, which kind of makes sense because, like I said, hundreds of years ago, 1,000 years ago, we're just big, like living off the land, hunting, fishing, and just like barely people, man or woman. And now our bodies are getting smaller and our heads are getting bigger because we're getting more knowledgeable. We have technology at our hands every second of the day. So it's just again another theory I wanted to bring up and entertain.
no, not honestly. I totally. So that's actually something I was going to bring up too. And also, interesting little theory for you about the movie Signs. Was that because like wasn't I can't remember which character it was. Weren't they like a preacher or a priest or something like that? In the movie.
I don't
So they
remember honestly.
Well, so one of the entertaining theories that I've read about that, and obviously it's not backed by anything, is that the movie Signs is actually not about aliens, but about demons. And that the reason they're weak to the water is because it's holy water. And so that's just a interesting concept right there, that I read about. Um, but beyond that, I love that you brought up that thing because I'm gonna bring up a couple theories that I've read and heard about. There's the theory that like reality in itself is like there's so many overlapping realities that are just stacked on top of each other, and like that like and also there's the idea of that there's like reality breaches where like people think it's ghosts, but it could just be like this sort of phantom aspect you're seeing in a different reality. It's like, and there's so like if you just go on and you just read all these different stuff, and there's these ideas of augmented reality, and like there could be like there's ideas that entertain the fact that we're literally just like a zoo to more advanced civilizations, and it's like there's so many different things that get bounced around, and it's cool just to hear it. Do you have to believe it? No, but it's cool to read. And that's the thing. And I like that you brought up the whole like, yeah, aliens are just progressed that, and I was like, that's a big head concept because like look at what our best evolutionary trait is: our minds, our intelligence. That's what we constantly are continuing to use to expand. Our There are still needs to adapt for like athleticism and stuff like that, but yeah, it's specialized now. It's like athletes want to create more, obviously more successful athletes than themselves because it's a bigger thing, like it's a big thing to them. Whereas like you just see more and more that continuous growth, and like you said, the head's getting bigger, and I could definitely see that being like a thing. It's where like where we just perceive this idea of an alien is just could just be an advanced, I wouldn't call them human because by human like we're earthlings, but they could have literally looked like us at one point, and they just might have progressed to a different form that could have just been more adaptable to their new current environment, and it can make space travel easier. It could like all these things that could factor into that stuff. And overall it's like I, when you hear these stories about people being abducted, it's like you could that could even be like doesn't have to be alien in nature. That could just be some underlying government shit. Honestly, there could have just been, and it's like, or it could just be people being crazy. But the fact is, hysteria has gotten to the like that hysteria got so big with the whole Roswell thing and all of that during that time period that it kind of diluted a lot of those stories, and it's hard to pinpoint. But I'm going to just kind of make a point like I did with the whole supernatural concept. You see so many videos, you see so much information, you see all this, and maybe about 99% of it is probably bullshit. But that leaves, if you have this much content about something, there's got to be at least one fact to it. There's got to be some truth in there somewhere. And that's
Hmm.
what I always like to lean on. I like to believe. That's why I generally keep my mind open to all different concepts because it's like, how can I dismiss something that's so widely popularized? How can I just fully dismiss it? It's not like I'm going to sit there and say it's fact, but it's like, why can't I leave my mind open to the idea? Why can't I believe, like, even to the concept of like, yeah, sure, maybe there are little green men who run around and probe people or have this advanced technology. And I don't know, because I think about it and it's like, I think about humanity itself. I don't see why aliens would concern themselves with us, even if there were like another civilization. Because like I always thought about two ideas: if aliens actually came to this planet where they had more advanced technology, and I know they like to say that aliens have been here before, like they turn to like the Egyptian hieroglyphics and even other cultures where they see like these gods that are like presented, and like people like to turn to the pyramids, and it's like, well, actually that could have just been ingenuity. There could have just been people well ahead of their time who are very technologically smart because they're like, oh, how could they build pyramids? It's like, well, because think about it. They could have used a rolling system and pulleys and stuff like that. It's not completely impossible. It's just sounded improbable for them to do that at that time. But then you look back, there's been so many things in technology that have been lost to history that there could be things back then we didn't even know that's how they used it, but that information got destroyed for some reason. Maybe through war, maybe through some leader out of spite had more power and they didn't like how advanced another civilization was, but that civilization was smaller and they just wiped them out. And that's the thing. It's I don't tend to lean back into the past when I think about aliens. I can only imagine as the future progresses what we could see. But also like there's always that scary thought. It's just kind of like, like when I'd sit at the beach even like because I think about the ocean is like one of the most comparable things to space because there's a lot of scary shit to it, and that's why you see like and even call back to video games. Fucking what's that game we were playing? I talked about it so much.
Subnautica.
And Subnautica. It's like I think about those two concepts combining together like that is so terrifying to me because it's space and it's ocean, and it's like because we don't even fully understand everything going on in our oceans. And I always like would sit at the beach. I'd just be like, man, imagine like there's some giant fucking hand reaching out of the water, and it's just like massive tsunami. Like those are kind of thoughts I'd entertain when I'd
Hmm.
just be like bored. And it's just like I think about space. It's like there's two things that would happen if an advanced civilization would come here. They would show up, just decimate us. They would just wipe us out right away. It'd just be like stepping on a cockroach. Honestly, it'd just be like, oh, bugs, gross. Or it could go the other way, and they would just be like, oh, these what is this specimen? They're entertaining. Let's try to communicate with them. And if their technology is so advanced, they should already have the advancement to be able to communicate with us to some extent. And I just I don't know, because like we see things like Elon Musk company SpaceX, and we see progression with moving towards more commercial, them being the first commercial space station company, whatever, uh, to actually start the idea of commercial flights into space, and that in itself is cool. And it sucks because I always see this meme too. It's like it's always like too early to discover the world and too late to travel, or no, too late to discover the world and too early to travel the stars. And it's like, yeah, we are kind of in that awkward middle phase right now. There's been a lot of discovery, and there's still so much more progression in terms of technology we need before it becomes common base that we're like, yeah, we're going to Mars, we're doing all this, we're looking at this. And I guess I don't know, for me, I would like to believe that once that information starts to come out more of what they have kept from us, more of like, and when I say them, I mean like the governments. I mean, and I know every government has their things that they keep, but I feel like there's that information is getting to that point where it's like maybe give this to the people. Stop hiding shit. Now leak it in the proper ways, but let us be honest, be straightforward with it, because I think we're getting to a point where it's like, all right, I think society's ready to hear that kind of stuff, and we're just gonna be like, yeah, kind of knew it. And I
Yeah,
think everyone's just gonna kind of shrug their shoulders, because at the end of the day, how many people does it really impact? Knowing that it's not like it's gonna change your way of living just because you now have that knowledge. It's not like all of
yeah.
a sudden like uh what's the name of that movie with Tom Cruise in it? War of the Worlds is in that.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yep,
think that's
yep.
what. Yeah. So it's not like all of a sudden there's gonna be a mass scale alien invasion coming our way, and all of a sudden like we're gonna be attacked by some fucking tripod alien bullshit. And it's
Yeah,
like, no, that's not gonna happen. It's more of I'm gonna feel real stupid if that's actually 1 second. uh but yeah, and that's what like just kind of where I'm at when I think about it. And no, and there's definitely like I said, go check out the podcast with Joe Rogan, Tom DeLonge, listen to it, make your own assessments of what he's talking about.
mhm.
And I guess I'm kind of curious, like, has there ever been any situations where you felt like you kind of came into where you thought you were experiencing something alien in nature, or
There's been so one thing I want to touch on with that, that's probably the closest thing I actually have one oddly kind of extraterrestrial experience, like with seeing a UFO. And it's pretty basic. It's not it's and I'm not even gonna say like, oh yeah, 100% was a UFO. It was just something that I couldn't explain. It was we're going from Eau Claire, we're going either to my parents or to Mandy's parents, and we're getting close to Wausau, and it was dark out, and like I there was this light, and it looked like a plane, but it was brighter than a plane because it caught my eye. We've seen hundreds, thousands of planes flying through the sky at night. It's like, oh, plane. But it was just like, okay, that looks different. It was brighter. It was bigger. It just looked like it was throwing off a lot more light. And the weird thing is I remember it came in, it like came from left to right, stopped, went up, came back down, and then shot back to the left from where it came from. As like fast as I could blink, it like was gone and out of my sight. It was just like one of those weird things, and it was while I was driving, so it was just like it was probably like 5-10 seconds that this occurrence happened. And like I said, it could have just been a trick of my eyes. It could have been a plane. It could have been something else. But it was just that's the only experience. Otherwise, another interesting thing that has happened to me really only once or twice is they say doppelgangers. If you see a doppelganger, sometimes it's an alien taking form in yourself to it's basically mimicking its surroundings. So like you see um you see like some movies, like I think it's some Marvel movies, um,
Oh,
like
you're talking about like Captain Marvel with the scrolls. I think
yep,
that's what they're called.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and how they'll take form of another of somebody that they see. They see a person, they can form themselves to look like that person, and yeah, there's been two times in my life where I've seen someone who looks very much like me, and it was like eerie. Um, One of them being somebody who was actually who came to our house. It was somebody who here I'll actually see if I could find it. I know I had it in my Snapchat memories. It was like one of my parents' tax people of all things. They're like
Yeah.
they like came to um oh yeah right here. I'll look at that. Is that not me?
I can definitely see it. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely in the face. That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, and this person came to our house. It was like my parents' tax person or whatever, and they looked exactly like me at the time. Same way how my hair is, how it's parted this way. At that time, I had been lifting more. I think I was like that's my first year of college, so I had like gotten beefier. And it's just like it was just weird how this dude that was literally like same height, everything, same build. His voice sounded very similar to mine, and it was just creepy as fuck. And I think I was like at the kitchen table, like I might have been like doing homework or something or eating, but it was just like I just remember sitting there, just like in shock, just looking at this guy talk to my
You're
parents, and I'm just
like,
like, God, this dude's
brother.
yeah. And then the other time
Brother.
was where was I? It was just walking on the street, just in passing, and that could be just like, oh, that guy kind of looks like me, and boom, they're gone, which happens sometimes. But it was just like it catches your eye when you see somebody who's like same height, same build, they just like look like you. But yeah, that that instance where that guy came to our house, I was just like, okay, this is kind of creepy. But um,
So,
yeah,
and
aside from that one instance with the light in the sky, and then just like how they say, oh, doppelgangers are aliens who take form of yourself. But they say they also say too, if you see your doppelganger, it's a sign that you're gonna die soon. Like if you run into your basically they say like, oh, if you run into your doppelganger, basically they're gonna try to kill you and take your place in your life and like basically ruin your life and like live out the rest of your life, but it's not actually you, it's your doppelganger. But I mean, I'm still here, so obviously that's not a thing. And I don't really believe in that, but
well, no, and exactly, and it's like, and it's there's so many thoughts and ideas that are entertained out there. Like I've thought of the idea, like, what if time travel does and has always existed, but because of the rules of time, essentially, what if there's just been it creates divergent timelines? That's why we haven't seen it because it hasn't been created within our timeline yet. And anyone who travels in time will never see it fully because of the way the timelines diverge. We are not at that point where, and I feel like once we get to the point where we actually, and like I know there's been like some, I think they were able to like almost make like it was something so small, like they time traveled just a little bit, like a couple seconds. Like it's like there is so much progress being made in science, but it's such little leaps and bounds. But people don't realize how progressive that really is, and like how much it's expanding. In terms of like stories, in terms of aliens, I don't really have anything outside of like maybe two stories, and one's not really even that alien in nature. It could have been literally anything from a psychosis situation to something more supernatural. But I still feel like I'll just talk about it, just because it's interesting. But the first one I'll start with is I think it was me and my sister. Yeah, it was me and my sister when we were younger. Uh, One time, same situation with you. It was lights in the sky, and it was just weird how they were moving. It didn't seem, it's almost like you can tell when something doesn't seem natural because you've seen other things move, you've seen their movement patterns, and when something moves in a vertical shift at like, because you know when you see something moving vertically, you assume helicopter. You see something moving horizontally through the air, you're just like, oh, plane, jet, whatever. But when you see something that's able to go like like that and just do patterns that just don't seem natural, because your eye has never perceived that flying through the air. So it could be any, it could be something that the government's working on. But the fact is, we have not seen that kind of technology common enough for our brain to be like, this is normal. So it obviously creates that sensation in your brain. You're like, this is fucking weird. What did I just see? And it kind of makes you feel uncomfortable almost, because it's like it kind of challenges your whole perception of reality. And I kind of get why they leak. Like, if they are intending to leak information, it does kind of have to be that smooth way. But I do feel like we're all getting to the point where it's like, well, we all kind of had our weird experiences in life, and everyone has a story. I don't think I've ever met a person who's like, I've never had anything weird ever happen in my life. And if they are like that, they're just an asshole who just likes to deny everything because they're extremely skeptic of everything. And that's fine. I mean, I guess I won't call them an asshole, but usually the way those people talk are assholes. So
Yeah.
they talk like
You
an asshole. They might not be an asshole.
One thing to kind of touch on, you mentioned like a psychosis thing with the lights in the sky, and it's kind of funny that you bring that up because it's like there's definitely been times like even now and as I've grown like growing up, there's times you look in the sky and like you look in the sky expecting to see something out of the ordinary. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you're just in that mood where your gears are turning and like right now we're talking about this kind of stuff. And if I walked outside right now and I looked up and it's like, oh, what if there's a UFO up there right now? And that's where the brain is such a powerful thing is because if you look up at the sky and you're like looking to see if you see something out of the ordinary, you think you might see a UFO, your brain might paint this picture and make you think you're seeing something. So that's why, like you had mentioned, the whole psychosis thing is if you're looking for something, like if you look into the woods, if you're scared and you look into the woods and you're like, oh, I feel like something's looking at me, eventually your brain is going to form some shadow peeking behind a tree at you because
exactly.
you make it into existence, and like that's what your brain is such a powerful thing. And that's why too, and one thing too that you had mentioned before is how 99% of these videos you see, uh, aliens, Bigfoot, ghost videos, they're all fake. But the crazy thing is in like one thing I like to think about too is like you can't imagine a new color in your head. Nobody can think of a new color. So that's where I'm thinking of like these ideas, the ideas of Bigfoot, the ideas of aliens. These ideas don't just like, oh, this is a cool idea. I'm gonna make a fake video of this. Somewhere, somebody, the first person ever, saw it for real, or at least their mind
Yeah.
made them think they did. And then once that first video starts, more people are like, oh, I've had similar experiences. Other side of the coin, people are looking as an opportunity to get views on YouTube or get followers
Yep,
and just like,
and then it just becomes a bandwagon concept,
yeah.
and that's because the hysteria that I was talking about. When hysteria kicks in, when other people see an opportunity, it gets to the point where they're literally talking about an Area 51 raid and all that nonsense, and everyone just showed up there and they're selling alien merchandise and stuff
Hmm.
like that. It just turned into more of a gimmick than anything. But the reality is, and like this is a point I wanted to bring up too, because I love that you're talking about the brain. This is one of my favorite subjects to always talk about because it's like, if say for example, say me and you say you were born in the desert, right? Say you were born in the desert and you were isolated, and say I was born in the woods or something like that and I was isolated, and we were told two different completely different stories about the world. Say you were told while you were living in the desert that the world is just a barren wasteland, that vehicles don't exist, they kept you away from them, and you were raised in such a way that you only have such an understanding. That is all your reality is now. Look at the tribes that still exist in this world, that honestly we just kind of like they see planes and they're like, that's a giant metal bird, stuff like that. Like they don't have that understanding of what that is, and it seems like something so out of touch with reality, whereas we see it, it's just like, oh, that's just a plane. To
Hmm.
them that's alien. So it's like, when you think about what defines alien, it's so hard because it's like, something that's just what is something truly alien and what is something that just we have never perceived. And so it alters our reality. So therefore, our first instinct is to go, this isn't natural, this isn't human, this is alien. Whereas to someone else, it might be something they know about. It might be like, oh no, I know exactly what that is,
Hmm.
because they just have that knowledge of it. And so that's where a lot of that misconceptions come from, and a lot of these stories start coming out of, is because people have this misunderstanding of what they're looking at. And the other story I was going to tell you, which is kind of interesting, like I said, this could be more supernatural, this could be more psychosis. But one night, I was laying in my bed. This is when I was still in the army, I believe. I think so, yeah. And I was laying in my bed, and for whatever reason, this is so weird. So there was like no lights or anything, right? Like we're on. There's no cars. Like, so when cars go by, their lights weren't hitting my window. But there was one point where like I went to go close my eyes, and I was like, this was a normal day. I didn't do any drugs or anything. I wasn't drinking. I was perfectly normal, just going to bed. All of a sudden, like, it was like there was like a bright light that I could literally see through my eyelids. Like, it was so blaringly bright that I couldn't, like, I was like, what is this? It was like picture like a super bright like um I don't know, LED light, you know, those
Mhm.
annoying asshole high beams, but there was no vehicles around. And it was like constantly locked into my eyes. And then there was a flashing blue light in between it. And I was like, is this psychosis? What is happening? Because, and then also I just started feeling very eerie about it. And it just felt like, and I just started hearing like a blaring sound. And it was just like a siren going off. And like, I know what all the sirens on base sound like. This didn't sound like it was outside my window down the block, like doing the whatever it's doing. This was like right in my ear. And I was like, am I having some kind of psychological break right now? Is this some like? And I was like, no, because this has never happened in my life. And it was just weird. And it literally like, I got up to the, it got to the point I had to go turn on all my lights, close all my doors, and just like sit there and just be like, all right, what the fuck is happening? Because then when I finally did that and I like sat up for a second because the sound was still blaring, and finally I just like I got up and I was like, all right, I'm gonna turn my TV on. I turned my TV on. I just sat there for a second and it just stopped. And I was like, this is weird. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what was happening. And I was like, there's so many, like it was so surrealistic to me that I couldn't even perceive an answer for it. Like I tried to be like, all right. I looked out the window. I was like, nope, there's no lights. There's no one like fucking with me. Like my roommate wasn't in at the time, so I know it wasn't them trying to fuck with me too. So it's like kind of like what was I experiencing? And
Mhm.
it's like that the brain does so many crazy things, and it's like it, it almost makes it hard to like you have to have faith in yourself and trust yourself and believe yourself to be able to look beyond the all right, this might just be paranoia, this might just be a trick of the light, a trick of my my like psychosis. And to be able to have that rational to sit down and be like, no, what I saw is what I saw, and to be have that conviction in it. And that's why it's so hard for people to be like, oh yeah, I saw an alien, or oh, I saw something supernatural. Some people don't like to tell their stories. I know a lot of people who do like to talk about it, but I know a lot of people who don't, because they're like, oh, people are going to think I'm crazy. It's like, no, even if it wasn't what you thought it was, still tell your story. And that's one thing I'm going to open up to anyone who wants to jump in the comment section. Feel free to share your stories always. I love to hear people's stories. I love to understand where it is that you come from, what it is you've experienced. Because if we can make sense of this without creating the hysteria, if we can even finally get like a video that's not grainy, because that's always like it's gotten to the point where it's such a joke, you know, like it's literally a joke. You see all these cryptid
Mhm.
videos and all that. It's like it looks like it's being filmed in like the fucking like the early fucking 60s
Yeah,
or something like that. And it's
off
like
of
the
one of those
person has
MP3.
Parkinson's. I don't.
Yeah, or off one of those MP3 slash cameras from like 2001. That it's like nobody's still using one of those. It's yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, in some parts of the world, that's their advanced technology. They don't have iPhones. They have your $20 MP3 slash cameras that look ancient that we had when we were little. But
Well, and this is the thing too. It's like also if anyone has any video you think is convincingly true, link it to us. We will watch it. We'll review it,
yeah,
and if it changes our insight, our perspective on it. Because like I said, right now where I am at, I don't believe that anything that I have personally experienced can't be explained. I just don't know how to explain it. And that's the way I look at it. Every supernatural experience I've had, every alien experience I've had, and every one of my friends, I believe can be explained. Even if I can't explain it, I do believe there is some answer to it. Does it mean it's not the supernatural or the alien response? No, it doesn't. It just means I know there's someone out there who can answer it. But for now I can't. So if you guys have any video you're like, this is something that like surfaced but never got popular, but this looks like it's real or convincing, and it doesn't look like it's just fishing for likes or comments, and it's not supposed to like that's another thing. The internet is so quick about spreading stuff. It's almost like if there was something really solid that couldn't be dismissed, would it really be allowed to stay on? You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like what kind like it's hard to find the content that's like truly believable.
hmm And if we get enough videos in, I mean, we could make this another episode. Either if you have your own videos, whether it's, I mean, at this point, we'll open it up to alien or supernatural, just
Yeah.
anything that you're like, you caught video of, throw it in. Otherwise, if there's a video you've seen out there, link it to us. And if we have enough videos to kind of dive into, I'd definitely be interested in just kind of watching them all and reacting to them and giving our take on them. And actually, one show I wanted to bring up that I used to watch all the time on Sci-Fi is Fact or Faked. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
I
basically
can't say.
it's,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's a group of like, I think it's like 4 or 5 people that are like, one's in like um stunt choreography, one is in like cryptid stuff. They all have their own area of expertise. And basically, every episode starts with them all bringing a video to the table that they found or whatever. And then they decide on like 2 or 3 to go explore to either try to capture more footage themselves of what it is or to try and debunk it. And a lot of times, it's kind of cool to see them use Hollywood like choreography and like all these different things to literally do side by side of the original video and their video. And sometimes they're like, wow, that looks nothing alike, maybe this is a real video, or it's a spitting image replica and it's like, okay, this is fake. So it's kind of an interesting show to watch. I definitely recommend it. And one person I kind of wanted to bring up that I kind of forgot about till now, who's kind of put a lot of light on this topic, is the Bob Lazar story.
Yeah.
Again, another one that you can go check out on Netflix. I think it's Bob Lazar, Flying Saucers and UFOs, something along those lines. Um, but basically, he's been on Joe Rogan as well. Go check that episode out. Very uh, the guy sounds like a very credible person, and I know there's a lot of sources and a lot of things that have been like, oh, this dude's a fake. He's just looking for attention, and and this has been something since like the 90s that's been a talking point as far as the UFO world. And basically, it's just his story of he didn't actually work in Area 51, and that's one thing that he's always stressed is Area 51 is just it's what the government wants you to see. They're like, yep, here's Area 51, but all the hidden stuff is in like S2 and S4, which are like hidden bunkers inside the mountains in Nevada that you can't see on Google Maps. You can go on Google Maps. Like years ago, you look at Area 51, it used to be just a grayed out rectangle. They didn't want you to see it, but now they're like, you know what? Everybody's so curious about it. Boom, here you go. And all it is, it just looks like an airfield with some hangars and some buildings, and it's like, okay, that's boring because yeah, they want you to look at that. They don't want they you can't find the hidden bunkers in the mountains on Google Maps because obviously they're hidden. But this
Yeah.
is supposedly where all the UFOs they have aliens hostage and like doing tests on them and stuff, and just anything that the government wants to hide supposedly is in the hills of Nevada. So I won't go into it too much just because there's a lot of information and a lot of stuff to unpack there, but I definitely recommend checking out really any videos on Bob Lazar and just kind of gain your own understanding of it and see what you think of it. But
Yeah, exactly. And then, and like, I just want to like stress this. This is like an intro into these topics. We like to do these little like intro videos where it's like, if this is something you really want to see us jump down the rabbit hole about. And another idea I was entertaining too, and Colin, like, if you want to do this yourself too, and we can even branch off and share our own stories with what happens. So anything supernatural. So you know something supernatural in the Midwest. You know a very haunted location that's not like very touristy. Like it's not very like a big spot, but like they do if you get a hold of them and you tell them that you want to go do some filming and stuff like that there, and like set up something for it, or even try to do like uh trying to experience something. I'm willing to travel. I'm willing to go do this because I like to create content and I like to do this stuff myself. And on so if you know any like crazy spots where there's a lot of paranormal activity that happens in the Midwest or even outside in the United States itself, because I get around, I go down the East Coast a lot. I'm planning on going out west more. So if you know a spot, you want us to go check it out and you want us to do our honest review of it and how we have our experiences with it, I'm more than happy to do that. I'll go check them out. I'll let you know how I feel about it. If I think it's just some touristy fucking overtalked spot, or I know there's a lot of shows out there that do this. Like I know Ghost Hunters was one of the bigger ones, or what's the Ghost Adventures,
hmm
stuff like that. But I'm also willing to go check the stuff out for myself because I'm one of those people. Like it's cool to watch those shows, but also I like to be like I'm just a regular guy. I'm not out here trying to have a big show about that. So if you want to know if I have my own experiences with it, plus I'm very good at being like, no, that's just me making weird sounds in the dark. It's nothing else. That's just me going like squealing at myself.
yeah,
So
no, it's funny you bring that up because I've honestly thought about that too. Where just taking a weekend trip, like you said, just go visit these places, whether it's paranormal, whether it's just something like a like a phenomena that it's only found in certain. There's so many people like places around the world that people are like, well, I want to go visit this country and that country. I want to see this and that. There's so much in the U.S. to unpack that really
Yeah,
you can
dude.
hit
There's so
all
much
those
here in
points.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, in
There's so much here. Like
Wisconsin,
if you,
you mentioned like
was-
like haunted
yeah,
places. There's a handful I've actually looked into in Wisconsin because like years ago when I was super into like ghost hunters when that show was still big. Um, I was looking, I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's any places in Wisconsin. There's dozens in Wisconsin that um, have stories behind them, whether people committing suicide, people getting murdered, and then investigators going there and confirming it. So I'd definitely be down to travel to some of those places in the state just to kind of get our feet wet on this and just kind of explore that realm.
exactly. And it's even because I know our whole thing is our podcast, and if you guys like watching this, but I'm also like I said, we could totally do this go GoPro style, and we'll just put the videos up of what we experienced. So that way, we're not leaving it up, and it'll be unedited footage. It'll be something you can filter through yourself. Be that way, I don't want to edit anything. It'll be boring. I'll let you guys know if I'm doing this. There's gonna be boring moments, but at the end of the day, if there is something that's experienced, you get to experience it raw without having it to like realize it's filtered or anything like that. Because I see a lot of that crap on the internet, and I'm sure a lot of people hate seeing that shit because it's like you can clearly tell that someone edited it. And I get it; it's for the sake of time. But like, if you guys ever just want us to like put that up as like just kind of like a link thing, and just running for like I don't know, like 6 hours. And if you're like, you know what, I want to like, and we'll even leave timestamps where like weird shit happens. Where so if you don't want to sit there and watch whatever else happens, it's just like you just fast forward to those points. And so ultimately, yeah, that's one thing I've been, and I'm glad you're kind of on the same boat as that, because there was a book I used to have actually. It was like talked about all the cryptids of Wisconsin and all these like different experiences. I'm gonna have to like order the book online again. I'll have to look up the title of it, but no, I definitely want to go explore my home state first, and then just kind of lay it out and just if I experience something, if I do, and if I do, it's awesome. That's crazy because then it actually gives me some sort of better understanding of it. But if I don't, I can just be like, well, either maybe it just wasn't my time to see something like that, or maybe it's just that it's fake. And so, more than happy to do that and indulge. So
I agree.
awesome. All right, and like I said, I think that's kind of good for the today. Just kind of finish that up, wrap that
Yeah,
up, this episode up on that then, and yeah, no, continue to share our content. If you have any other topics you guys want us to talk about, if you're just like, oh, maybe you should try this out, or because like we're always just happy to do new things. This is for us. It's fun. We like doing it. So, and we also like that if you like watching us, we're entertaining for you. My horrible Trump turned JFK voices, like stuff like that. If you just enjoy our stupidity and our overall goofiness, feel free to just let us know where you would like to see it. If I end up getting possessed or some crazy shit, you know what? It's for the podcast. So
it's all for the podcast.
it's all for the podcast.
But yeah, like I said before, this is an intro topic. We talked for 45, 50 minutes here, and it's a very brief amount of time to talk about such a controversial topic, and it's something we'll definitely circle back to in the future as we find more content, as we read more things, as you guys send us more things to look at. Um, yeah, like I said, just an intro topic. I'm sure we'll circle back to it at some point.
Yeah, and then again, and then also on the topic of gaming, I know that like a lot of you guys like seeing our gaming content. Don't worry, there's gonna be some more of that trickling out. Right now, I just feel like gaming is kind of in this transitionary phase, so it's not really like I know there's a lot to unpack right now. Obviously, with what's going on with the PS5, Xbox, fucking whatever. My brain just blanked there. But yes, no, there's a lot of new things happening, but I want to like we're honestly at that point where I just want to see things smooth out because I know there's been a lot of and like complaints about like these new gen games are being very buggy, stuff like that. So I just don't want to give you guys a review that's not honest to the truth of what that game's worth. I still encourage everyone if you got the new systems to go check it out. If you're on PC, go check out these new games. Um, and enjoy them. But right now, I just want to let them sort of get through this transition, and then I will step up. Collin will step up, and we'll do some more video game content. But we are going to be continuing to branch out, trying new things because we like that. We like doing new things.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and as this channel is going to evolve. I mean, a year from now, we could be talking about completely different things. This channel could completely just turn into us traveling to places and exploring new places. Who knows? I mean, you look at all these podcasts that grow in I guess get traction. The very first episode, I guarantee 100% is very different from the most recent episode, and hopefully you guys will join us and evolve with us along the way and continue to enjoy the content that we send out. Um, if not, I mean, there's plenty of other podcasts out there, and I definitely encourage you to check out other people's if we're not meeting your satisfaction. And I mean, no hurt feelings. Obviously, uh,
Yeah.
like I said, our first like 3 episodes were very boom gaming this, gaming that, and now we're talking about aliens. So I mean, if we're kind of rubbing you guys the wrong way, I mean, I encourage you guys to look elsewhere. But otherwise, stick around and enjoy what's to come.
Yep. It's only going to keep evolving from here. It's only going to get better content, continuing to grow, building towards ultimately defining what it is we really want to get out of this for ourselves first and foremost. And then if you like what we're defining for ourselves, stick around because it's only, like I said, it's only going to get better. A lot of new content coming in the future. We still have so many things to sit down. We still are planning on doing our friendly fire segments. It's just figuring out the time because we got a couple other buddies we want to bring on too. Because well, I'm sure you saw with the the water spitting episode if you've watched that one. We all have very differing humors and stuff like that, so it'll be a good time. So just stick around. Stay tuned for new content, and thank you for sticking with us as long as you have already. We like seeing new subscribers come on. We like seeing the likes, the follows. We appreciate you guys so much. So,
Amen, brother.
amen. So with that, signing off.
See you, man.